There is a truth so simple, so quiet, so powerful, that once you understand it, your life will never feel the same again. And the truth is this: you are not struggling because life is hard. You are struggling because you are fighting the wrong thing. Most people spend their entire lives battling circumstances, arguing with reality, trying to control everything outside of them, and suffering endlessly because of it. But the real source of struggle has never been the world around you. It has always been the world within you. Your thoughts, your reactions, your internal resistance, your expectations, your fears and assumptions about how life should be. These are the things that make life heavy. And here is the revelation that ends the struggle. Life is not happening to you. Life is responding to you. Reality is not your enemy. It is your mirror, your amplifier, your echo. The moment you stop fighting the mirror, the moment you stop pushing against the reflection, everything begins to soften. Everything becomes lighter. Everything becomes easier. Because struggle is not created by events. Struggle is created by misalignment. A conflict between your inner state and the life you're trying to live. But when you understand how your mind truly works, how your thoughts generate vibration, how your emotions transmit signals, how your subconscious shapes the experiences you attract, you stop wrestling with life and you begin guiding it. Gently, quietly, deliberately. This audiobook is not here to motivate you for a moment. It is here to reveal a deeper truth, one that frees you from the endless cycle of stress, pushing, forcing, and resisting. Because once you understand this, once you understand the true mechanics behind struggle, you will walk through life differently, calmer, clearer, more powerful, more aligned. Not because your circumstances suddenly change, but because you do. Tonight, we will pull back the curtain. We will explore the invisible forces that shape your reality. We will study the laws of mind, focus, vibration, and creation. We will understand why struggle exists, and more importantly, how to end it. Not by controlling everything around you, but by mastering the one thing you've had control over all along: your inner state. If you are ready to stop fighting life, if you are ready to end the struggle, if you are ready to understand the truth that will shift everything, then breathe deeply, slow down, and listen. Your transformation begins now. Most people believe they struggle because life is difficult, because circumstances are unfair, because challenges appear at the wrong moment, because something outside of them refuses to cooperate. But the real source of struggle is far more subtle and far more internal. You struggle not because of what is happening, but because of the meaning you attach to what is happening. You struggle because your mind is fighting with reality, instead of understanding it. Struggle does not come from events. Struggle comes from resistance. Resistance to what you feel. Resistance to what you fear. Resistance to what you do not understand. Resistance to what is unfolding in your life. Resistance to the version of yourself you are becoming. Resistance is the invisible tension between where you are and where you think you should be. It is the war between the moment you are living and the moment your mind insists upon. And the greater the gap between reality and expectation, the greater the pain. Let's slow this down, because this realization is the foundation of the entire transformation ahead of you. When something happens in your life, a disappointment, a delay, a loss, a change, there is the event itself, and then there is your reaction to the event. The event is neutral. Your reaction is not. The event is what it is. Your resistance is what creates suffering. It is not failure that hurts you. It is the story you tell yourself about failure. It is not uncertainty that paralyzes you. It is your refusal to accept uncertainty. It is not change that overwhelms you. It is the belief that change is a threat. It is not discomfort that breaks you. It is your insistence that life should feel comfortable. Reality is rarely the problem. Your fight against reality is. Resistance is like trying to swim against a powerful current. The harder you fight, the more exhausted you become. But the moment you stop resisting, the moment you allow the current to carry you, the struggle dissolves. You don't drown because the water is too strong. You drown because you refuse to float. Now, here is the truth many people never realize. Resistance is not natural. It is learned, and anything learned can be unlearned. You learned to resist your feelings because you were taught that emotions are messy. You learned to resist uncertainty because you were taught that control is safety. You learned to resist failure because you were taught that mistakes define your worth. You learned to resist the present moment because you were taught that happiness is somewhere in the future. But none of this is true. Control does not create safety. Resistance does not create strength. Avoidance does not create peace. In fact, the opposite is true. The more you resist, the more you struggle, the more you fight, the more you lose, the more you cling, the more life slips through your fingers. Because resistance lowers your internal state. It shuts down clarity. It blocks intuition. It tightens your body. It closes the heart. It creates static in the mind, static that weakens your creative power and disrupts the signal you are sending out into the world. This internal static is what people mistake for bad luck. It is not bad luck. It is blocked flow. It is misalignment between what you desire and what you are vibrating. Struggle is not a condition. It is a signal, a message from your inner world telling you that you are fighting what is, instead of working with it. Consider this. When you stop resisting sadness, it softens. When you stop resisting fear, clarity emerges. When you stop resisting uncertainty, creativity awakens. When you stop resisting change, life reveals opportunities hidden beneath the surface. You do not heal by force. You heal by surrender. Not surrender as in giving up, but surrender as in releasing the illusion that fighting harder will save you. There is a version of you that is not struggling, not because life becomes easier, but because you become clearer. This version of you has learned to recognize resistance as a moment of choice. Do I fight life here, or do I align with it? Do I hold on, or do I trust? Do I contract, or do I expand? Do I react, or do I respond? Every moment of struggle is a moment where resistance took over the pawns wheel. But the instant you become aware of resistance, the instant you take one conscious breath and release the inner tension, everything changes. Awareness dissolves resistance. And when resistance dissolves, struggle loses its foundation. Imagine holding a rope in a tug of war. The rope burns your hands. Your muscles shake. You're exhausted. You keep pulling harder because you think that is the only option. But in truth, You could have ended the struggle at any moment by simply letting go. Letting go does not mean collapsing. It does not mean losing. It does not mean giving away your power. Letting go means you stop feeding the struggle with your energy. Letting go means choosing peace over tension, clarity over chaos, alignment over force. When you stop resisting the world, you stop suffering. And something miraculous happens. Your mind opens. Your energy rises. Your intuition awakens. Your ability to attract what you desire accelerates. Because life flows through relaxed hands, not clenched fists. When you live in resistance, you are reacting to life. When you release resistance, you are directing life. Not with force, not with desperation, but with presence, calm, and certainty. This is the beginning of mastery. Understanding that the real enemy is not outer circumstance, but the tension inside you that keeps you disconnected from your own power. When you release resistance, you re-enter alignment. And in alignment, life becomes smoother, clearer, more supportive. You begin to notice things you never noticed before. Solutions appear. Opportunities open. Your emotions stabilize. Your mind sharpens. Your relationships soften. Your reality shifts. Not because the world changed, but because you stopped fighting it. This is the truth. The moment you stop resisting your life stops resisting you. And this simple, quiet, profound shift is the beginning of a life without struggle. There is a moment in everyone's life, a quiet, almost unnoticeable moment, when they begin to suspect something extraordinary. What if my mind is creating far more of my reality than I ever realized? What if my thoughts are not passive? What if my emotions are not random? What if the patterns in my life are not coincidences at all? What if the mind is not just a witness to life, but the architect of it? This realization is the beginning of awakening. Because the truth is far more powerful than most people dare to believe. Your mind is the most creative force you will ever possess, and you have been using it unconsciously for most of your life. Every thought you think, every emotion you energize, every expectation you carry, every belief you repeat projects a frequency into the world around you. You are like a transmitter, broadcasting your inner state into the infinite field of possibility, and life responds not to your wishes, but to your vibration. Most people never see this connection, not because it is hidden, but because it is silent. The mind creates in the subtle realms first, before anything becomes visible in the physical world. By the time something manifests, its roots have already been growing in your thoughts for months, sometimes years. You can look at your life today and see a map of the thoughts you have been thinking the longest. You can look at your relationships and see the reflection of your beliefs about love, connection, and self-worth. You can look at your finances and see the echo of your beliefs about abundance, capability, and possibility. You can look at your emotions and see the story your mind has rehearsed again and again. Your mind is not reacting to life. Your mind is creating life moment by moment, thought by thought. This is not philosophy. This is not mysticism. This is law. Thought is the first cause. Everything else is the effect. Before any event happens in your life, It appears first as a vibration within you, a quiet shift in your emotional climate, a subtle expectation, an inner assumption, a pattern of thinking you repeated without noticing. Your inner world is the blueprint. Your outer world is the construction, and the blueprint always comes first. But here is the part most people miss. You are not thinking alone. You are thinking within a field, a living, vibrating field of consciousness that connects every mind on this planet. When you think a thought, you send a ripple into this field, and that ripple attracts other ripples like itself thoughts. People, situations, opportunities, and outcomes that match the tone of your vibration. Just like a tuning fork makes another tuning fork resonate. Your mind draws toward you the experiences that match your dominant state of being. Fear attracts things that confirm fear. Confidence attracts pathways that open doors. Confusion attracts situations that feel unclear. Clarity attracts solutions that seem to appear out of nowhere. Scarcity attracts more scarcity. Abundance attracts abundance. This is why two people can live in the same city, work in the same environment, face the same economy, yet live completely different lives. The difference is not location. The difference is vibration. One mind is constructing life through fear. The other is constructing life through expectation. One mind is creating by accident. The other is creating deliberately. The creative power of your mind is always active. It never turns off. It never pauses. It never stops broadcasting, even when you sleep. Your subconscious continues to vibrate with the beliefs you have impressed upon it throughout your life. And because the mind is always creating, you are always attracting. Most people are not attracting what they consciously want. They are attracting what they unconsciously dwell upon. They say they want abundance, but their dominant vibration is worry. They say they want love, but their dominant vibration is self-doubt. They say they want freedom, but their dominant vibration is fear. The universe does not respond to intention alone. It responds to the emotional frequency behind the intention. You cannot trick the world with words, but you can transform the world with vibration. Here is the liberating truth. If your mind is powerful enough to create struggle unconsciously, it is powerful enough to create alignment consciously. Your mind is not your enemy. It is your greatest ally once you learn how to use it. The key is not to force your thoughts, but to guide them, not to suppress your emotions, but to understand them, not to deny your fears, but to lift your vibration above them. The mind becomes creative when it becomes intentional. When you know what you want, and more importantly, when your inner state harmonizes with that desire, you become magnetic. Thought is the spark. Emotion is the fuel. Belief is the stabilizer. Focus is the amplifier. Vibration is the message you send to the universe. And when all of these align, life has no choice but to respond. You don't need to force outcomes. You don't need to chase opportunities. You don't need to control every detail. When your inner world becomes clear and coherent, your outer world rearranges itself naturally. The door opens. The right people appear. The timing aligns. The path unfolds. The opportunities multiply. Not because you fought harder, but because you vibrated higher. This is not effort-based creation. This is alignment-based creation. And alignment begins with awareness. What thoughts am I feeding with my attention? What emotions am I energizing? What beliefs am I rehearsing? What vibration am I broadcasting right now? Every day, your mind is planting seeds. The question is, are you planting them consciously or unconsciously? When you become the gardener of your own mind, when you choose the seeds with intention, your entire reality transforms. You stop creating by accident. You start creating by design. You stop living in reaction. You start living in resonance. You stop struggling. You start aligning. This is the creative power of your mind, the quiet force shaping everything you experience. And once you understand it, once you learn to work with it instead of against it, you will no longer chase change. You will embody it. You will no longer fight life. You will co-create with it. You will no longer feel powerless. You will feel connected to something deeper, something intelligent, something responsive. Because the moment you understand the creative power of your mind, you stop being a passenger in your life, and you become the author of it. There is a quiet truth that most people never discover, a truth so subtle, yet so powerful, that it could instantly dissolve half the struggle in their lives if only they understood it. The more you try to control life, the more life pushes back. Most people live in a constant state of tension, trying to force results, force timing, force people, force outcomes, force themselves into states they are not vibrationally ready for. And then they wonder why everything feels heavy, why progress feels slow, why success feels exhausting, why nothing ever seems to align easily. But here is the secret hidden beneath all that effort. Struggle begins the moment you fight reality. Suffering begins the moment you try to control what isn't yours to control. And freedom begins the moment you stop forcing and start allowing. This is the illusion of control, the belief that if you just push harder, stress more, plan every detail, and hold on tighter, life will finally bend to your will. But control is a lie the mind tells when it is disconnected from alignment. The mind fears uncertainty, so it tries to manipulate outcomes. The mind fears delay, so it tries to rush the process. The mind fears disappointment, so it tries to predict everything. But the truth is simple. Forcing is a sign of misalignment. Flow is a sign of coherence. When you are aligned internally, things unfold naturally. Opportunities find you. People respond differently. Ideas come effortlessly. The next step reveals itself. But when you are misaligned, you push, pull, overthink, and exhaust yourself without ever reaching the ease you're truly searching for. Think of a river. You can swim with the current, letting the water carry you, support you, guide you effortlessly forward. Or you can fight against it, kicking and pulling, draining yourself, moving inches while others glide miles. Life is the same. The current is always flowing with or without your effort. Your job is not to fight the current. Your job is to align your vibration with it. And here is where most people get lost. They think taking control is the same as taking responsibility. But they are opposites. Taking control is fear-based. Taking responsibility is power-based. Control says, I don't trust life, so I must force it. Responsibility says, I trust my vibration, so life will meet me where I stand. Control is rooted in scarcity. Responsibility is rooted in alignment. Control says, something bad will happen unless I interfere. Alignment says, everything unfolds in my favor when I stay in the right vibration. Control creates friction. Alignment creates flow. Let me speak plainly. The results you are trying to force would come much easier if you stopped trying to force them. Because forcing is a message to the universe, I am afraid. I don't believe this can happen naturally. I don't trust the process. I don't trust myself. I don't trust life. And the universe mirrors that vibration back to you. Fear attracts reasons to fear. Pressure attracts resistance. Tension attracts obstacles. Control attracts chaos. But when you release the need to control not out of laziness, but out of clarity, something profound happens. Your energy softens. Your vibration rises. Your intuition becomes louder. Your path becomes clearer. Life begins responding, not resisting. Here's what most people misunderstand. Letting go is not giving up. Letting go is giving energy a chance to work for you instead of against you. Letting go is opening space. Letting go is trusting the unseen movement beneath the surface. Letting go is choosing alignment over anxiety. When you let go of forcing, you step into a state where inspiration flows. And inspired action is infinitely more powerful than forced action. You have felt the difference. There were moments in your life when the right idea came effortlessly, not by thinking harder, but by relaxing your mind. There were moments when someone appeared at the perfect time, not because you chased them, but because your energy aligned with them. There were moments when something you wanted came easily, naturally, fluidly, without strain, without fear, without pushing. That was alignment, and alignment never requires force. When you are aligned, you do not chase, you attract. When you are aligned, you do not beg, you become magnetic. When you are aligned, you do not fear timing, you trust timing. When you are aligned, you do not cling, you allow. And here is the most liberating truth of all. Life is always trying to help you, but it cannot reach you while you are holding too tightly. When your mind is tense, you cut off intuition, you block opportunities, you shut down possibilities. You narrow your field of awareness so that you only see what could go wrong instead of what is already going right. But the moment you release control, your awareness expands. You begin noticing solutions you never saw before. You feel nudges you were too stressed to hear. You see synchronicities you once ignored. You sense a flow that was always present, waiting for you to relax into it. Control shrinks your reality. Alignment opens it. You are not meant to micromanage life. You are meant to co-create with it. Your job is to choose the vibration. Life's job is to deliver the reflection. Your job is to align internally. Life's job is to arrange externally. Your job is to decide what you want. Life's job is to orchestrate the path. And when these roles are reversed, when you try to do life's job, you suffer. Not because life is cruel, but because you are misusing your creative power. Once you stop forcing and start aligning, you step into a new reality, one where you no longer struggle for every inch. Because the current begins to carry you. You move with life, not against it. You flow instead of fight. You trust instead of fear. You open instead of resist. This is the end of the illusion of control and the beginning of effortless creation. There comes a moment in every person's journey, a moment so quiet, so gentle, that they almost miss its significance when they realize something profound. Life was never asking you to push harder. Life was asking you to align. For most of your life, you were taught that success comes from effort, from grinding, forcing, chasing, fixing, controlling, and pushing yourself past your limits. And yes, effort can create movement, but only alignment creates momentum. Effort exhausts you. Alignment energizes you. Effort fights against reality. Alignment works with it. Effort is you struggling alone. Alignment is the universe moving with you. This is the shift, the moment you begin to understand that life does not respond to pressure, fear, or force. Life responds to vibration. And when your vibration changes, your entire reality rearranges around it. Let's slow this down, because this chapter contains a truth that can end years of unnecessary struggle. Effort is physical. Alignment is energetic. Most people move through life with a belief that says, if I don't push, nothing will happen. But think of the moments when the best things in your life occurred. The right person appeared when you weren't looking. The opportunity came when you stopped trying. The answer arrived when you finally relaxed. The solution surfaced when you stepped away. These were not coincidences. These were expressions of alignment. Effort is what you do when you think you're alone. Alignment is what you do when you remember you're connected. Effort says, I must make this happen. Alignment says, if I become who I need to be internally, what I desire will find its way to me. Effort tries to manipulate. Alignment magnetizes. When you stop forcing, your energy becomes coherent. As long as your mind is filled with tension, fear, urgency, frustration, impatience, your energy becomes scattered. You vibrate in multiple directions at once. Part of you wants the dream. Another part fears the dream. Another part doubts it. Another part tries to rush it. This is why forcing feels so draining. Your energy is in conflict with itself. But the moment you release the need to control, the moment you soften, breathe, and let go, your energy reorganizes. Your vibration becomes unified. Your thoughts stop contradicting your desires. Your emotions settle into coherence. Your body relaxes. Your intuition strengthens. And when your energy becomes coherent, the world responds instantly. People feel the difference. Opportunities feel the difference. Life feels the difference. Because alignment is not something you do. Alignment is something you become. Alignment is the inner shift that creates outer results. The greatest misunderstandings about life come from believing that outer results require outer effort. But the truth is the opposite. Outer results require inner readiness. You don't attract what you chase. You attract what you are a match to. If you want love but vibrate unworthiness, Love cannot reach you. If you want abundance, but vibrate fear, opportunities cannot stick. If you want clarity but vibrate confusion, the path cannot reveal itself. But when you shift internally, when you raise your vibration to match the reality you want, everything begins to move. Not because you forced it, because you aligned with it. You become the version of yourself who naturally attracts what you once had to chase. The universe responds to coherence, not effort. Imagine two different people taking the same action. Person A is stressed, doubtful, desperate. Person B is calm, certain, aligned. They may take the same outward steps, but the energy behind their actions creates entirely different outcomes. Because the universe is not responding to the action itself, it is responding to the vibration behind the action. Fear-based action creates chaos. Aligned action creates momentum. This is why some people work tirelessly for years with little to show for it, while others move gracefully, effortlessly gliding into opportunities. They are not luckier. They are not more gifted. They are aligned. They operate from a state where life responds to them without resistance. The shift from effort to alignment begins with one question: what vibration am I operating from right now? Not what you are doing, not what you are trying, not what you are forcing, but what you are vibrating. If your vibration is fear, your path will feel blocked. If your vibration is doubt, your progress will feel slow. If your vibration is urgency, your results will slip through your fingers. But if your vibration is clarity, the way forward opens. If your vibration is trust, timing aligns effortlessly. If your vibration is gratitude, life becomes generous. If your vibration is certainty, obstacles dissolve. You rise above struggle not by doing more, but by aligning more. Life cannot give you what you contradict internally. You cannot desire ease while worshipping struggle. You cannot desire freedom while choosing fear. You cannot desire flow while clinging to control. You cannot desire abundance while vibrating scarcity. Life mirrors your vibration, not your words. And when your vibration shifts into alignment, life must rise to meet it. Must. This is not hope. This is not motivation. This is universal law. When you align, the world becomes responsive. You stop chasing opportunities, and they begin to look for you. You stop begging for clarity, and intuition speaks clearly. You stop pushing relationships, and people show up with sincerity. You stop stressing about outcomes, and results unfold naturally. You stop fearing delays, and timing reveals its intelligence. You stop fighting life, and life stops fighting you. Because the moment you shift from force to flow, from tension to trust, from effort to alignment, you become magnetic. Your energy changes. Your presence changes. Your path changes. Your reality changes. Not slowly, not subtly, but unmistakably. Alignment is the silent power that makes the impossible possible. This chapter ends with a simple truth. Life is not moved by force. Life is moved by frequency. And the moment your frequency matches the life you desire, effort becomes unnecessary because alignment begins doing the work for you. There is a quiet force shaping your entire life, a force so constant, so subtle, that most people never realize it is directing every decision, every perception, every opportunity, every experience they attract. That force is your emotional baseline, not the emotions you feel in moments of intensity, anger, excitement, joy, frustration, but the emotion you return to when the noise of life settles, the emotional home you live in even when nothing significant is happening. Your baseline is the emotional climate inside you, the silent atmosphere formed by your most repeated thoughts, your most practiced feelings, your oldest beliefs. And that internal climate is the single most powerful predictor of the life you experience. Not your affirmations, not your efforts, not your goals, not your discipline, your baseline. Because life is not responding to the emotions you feel once in a while. Life responds to the emotions you feel consistently. And those emotions vibrate beneath the surface of your consciousness, broadcasting your inner world into the infinite field around you. Energy does not lie. Frequency does not lie. Your baseline does not lie. It reveals who you believe you are. It reflects how you expect life to treat you. It shows the universe what you are a match to. This is why two people can have the same dream, but only one attracts it. Why two people can take the same actions, but only one gains momentum. Why two people can want abundance, but only one lives it. The difference is not talent, luck, or intelligence. The difference is the emotional climate from which they create. Your baseline acts like a magnet. A person whose baseline is fear lives in a world full of threats. A person whose baseline is lack constantly sees what is missing. A person whose baseline is doubt expects things to fall apart. A person whose baseline is resentment attracts friction and conflict. Not because life is cruel, but because life is reflective. Emotion is instruction. The universe does not respond only to what you want. It responds to the emotional signal you live in. If your baseline is worry, your mind scans for danger. Your body stays tense. Your intuition is blocked. Your energy becomes scattered. You attract situations that confirm your fear. If your baseline is gratitude, your mind scans for opportunity. Your body relaxes. Your intuition opens. Your energy becomes magnetic. You attract situations that confirm your abundance. Your emotional baseline is the foundation of your vibration. And your vibration is the architect of your reality. Most people try to change their lives without changing their baseline. They try to manifest abundance while living in a baseline of lack. They try to attract love while living in a baseline of unworthiness. They try to create peace while living in a baseline of anxiety. They try to build confidence while living in a baseline of self-doubt. And then they wonder why nothing changes. You cannot build a new life on an emotional foundation that contradicts it. You cannot vibrate fear and attract safety. You cannot vibrate scarcity and attract overflow. You cannot vibrate inferiority and attract connection. You cannot vibrate confusion and attract clarity. The universe listens to the emotional truth beneath your words. And your baseline is your truth until you choose to change it. Your baseline is shaped by what you return to. Everyone feels fear sometimes. Everyone feels stress sometimes. Everyone feels sadness sometimes. These emotions do not define your baseline. Your baseline is defined by the place you naturally drift back to when life becomes quiet. Do you drift back to trust or to tension, to optimism or to doubt, to calm or to chaos, to strength or to helplessness? This emotional return point is what your subconscious vibrates when you're not paying attention. It is the frequency you live in, not momentarily, but continuously. And that frequency writes the script of your future. Your baseline is not a prison. It is a habit. And habits can be rewritten. Every emotional baseline began the same way, through repetition. You felt the same feelings for so long: fear, pressure, worry, heaviness, uncertainty, that they hardened into your emotional default. But just as repetition created your baseline, repetition can transform it. The process is simple. You must choose the emotion you want to return to and practice returning to it. Not forcefully, not aggressively, but gently, consistently, with awareness. When you catch yourself dipping into the old baseline, pause, take a breath, shift deliberately into the new emotion, even if only for a moment. If your old baseline is fear, practice returning to safety. If your old baseline is stress, practice returning to ease. If your old baseline is doubt, practice returning to trust. Every shift, even small ones, rewrites the subconscious, because the subconscious learns through repetition, not intensity. One calm breath repeated many times is more powerful than one moment of intense effort. As your baseline changes, your reality transforms. People feel the difference in your energy. New opportunities approach you faster. Old patterns dissolve. Relationships soften or fall away. Your decisions become clearer. Your intuition strengthens. You stop chasing, forcing, controlling. Why? Because when your baseline rises, your vibration rises. And when your vibration rises, your life must rise with it. This is why the inner climate matters more than any outer strategy. It is the atmosphere through which every thought travels. Every decision is made. Every action is taken. You cannot outperform your baseline. You can only elevate it. And once you do, your reality begins to mirror that elevation. This is why some people feel guided, supported, carried by life, while others feel blocked, rejected, and left behind. It's not luck. It's not destiny. It's not circumstance. It's baseline. When your emotional home becomes a place of clarity, your life becomes clear. When your emotional home becomes a place of peace, life becomes peaceful. When your emotional home becomes a place of worthiness, life reflects your worth. When your emotional home becomes a place of abundance, opportunities multiply. Not because life changed first, but because you did. Your baseline invites the world to meet you at its level. This chapter ends with a truth that becomes impossible to unsee once you understand it. Your destiny is not shaped by what you feel once in a while, but by the emotion you return to most often. Change that emotion, and you change the path of your entire life. There comes a moment in every person's evolution when they begin to sense something quietly profound. The life they want requires a version of themselves they have not yet allowed themselves to become. Not because they are unworthy, not because they are incapable, but because they are still holding on to an identity that was built for a different chapter of life. The greatest barrier between you and the life you are trying to create is not your circumstances, not other people, not your past mistakes, not even your fears. The greatest barrier is the old identity you continue to carry, the version of yourself that was shaped by outdated beliefs, past experiences, unconscious patterns, and stories you no longer need. This is the truth most people never realize. You cannot step into a new reality while dragging the old identity behind you. The identity you cling to determines the emotions you feel, the choices you make, the risks you avoid, the opportunities you see, and the opportunities you don't. In many ways, your identity is the operating system of your entire life. And if the operating system is old, it will reject the new. This is why people repeat the same patterns even when they want change. It's not because they are broken. It's because their identity hasn't updated yet. Your identity is not who you are. It is who you learn to be. You learn to see yourself through the reactions of others, the limitations they carried, the fears they projected, the wounds you accumulated. You learn to see yourself through the lens of old failures, old disappointments, old versions of you that had nothing to do with who you are becoming. You learn to believe, I'm not confident, I'm not lucky, I always struggle, I'm not enough, I don't deserve more, I should stay small, I need permission, I need approval, I can't change, I must survive, not thrive. But these beliefs were never truth. They were adaptations, responses to your environment, responses to pain, responses to fear. Your identity was built to protect you at a time when protection felt necessary. But now, that same identity has become a cage, and you cannot create a new reality from inside an old cage. The old identity fears change, even positive change. Not because the change is harmful, but because the unfamiliar feels unsafe to a mind trained by old patterns. Your old identity wants predictability. It wants repetition. It wants the same thoughts, same feelings, same behaviors, because sameness feels like survival. But sameness also prevents evolution. This is why you sometimes feel like two people at once. One part of you desires expansion, abundance, freedom. Another part clings to the familiar fallide, the predictable, the old story. This internal conflict is not failure. It is transformation. You are outgrowing your old self, and the old self is resisting. Not because you're weak, but because you're evolving. Every breakthrough requires an identity shift. You cannot access the vibration of abundance from the identity of someone who believes they lack. You cannot embody self-worth from the identity of someone who sees themselves as unworthy. You cannot attract love from the identity of someone who assumes they are hard to love. You cannot step into power from the identity of someone who doubts their voice. Identity creates vibration. Vibration creates reality. This is why repeating new habits without updating your identity never leads to real change. Because the mind always returns to the self-image it believes is true. You can change your behavior temporarily. But unless you change the identity beneath the behavior, the old patterns return. Not because something is wrong with you, but because your subconscious is loyal to who you believe you are. So, how do you release the old identity? Not by fighting it, not by judging it, not by rejecting it. You release it by outgrowing it, by choosing to become someone your past self would never imagine, by giving yourself permission to update your self-image to match the life you desire. Here is the process, simple but transformative. See the old identity clearly. You cannot release what you refuse to acknowledge. Ask yourself, who have I been believing I am? And who does that belief force me to become? Recognize that this identity was built, not born. No belief about yourself is permanent unless you keep feeding it. Begin practicing the identity of your future self. Not someday, not after you succeed. Now. How would the future you think? How would they speak? How would they carry themselves? How would they respond to fear? How would they treat opportunities? Identity is not built through thought alone. It is built through repetition, small choices aligned with the person you want to become. Allow the old identity to fall away naturally. There is nothing to fight, nothing to analyze endlessly, nothing to fix. Old identities dissolve when you stop returning to them. As you shift your identity, your vibration transforms. You begin attracting different people. You begin noticing different opportunities. You begin making different decisions. You begin experiencing different emotions. You begin embodying a different frequency. The world responds not to the identity you speak about, but to the identity you vibrate. When you believe you are powerful, life mirrors power. When you believe you are worthy, life mirrors worth. When you believe you are destined for more, life opens more. Your identity is not your past. Your identity is your permission slip to step into a new future. The chapter ends with one liberating truth. You do not need to fix the old you. You only need to stop being loyal to them. The version of you that struggled cannot guide you into a reality of ease. The version of you that feared cannot guide you into a reality of confidence. The version of you that survived cannot guide you into a reality of abundance. Honor who you were, but become who you choose to be. Because the moment you release the old identity, the new reality finally has space to arrive. There is a turning point in every person's inner evolution, a moment when they finally understand that the very thing they have been resisting is the thing they must release. This moment is the birth of surrender, not the surrender of defeat, not the surrender of weakness, not the surrender of giving up, but the surrender of release, the surrender of alignment, the surrender of allowing, a sacred kind of surrender that does not shrink your power but amplifies it. Because here is the truth. What you cling to controls you. What you release frees you. Most people are not suffering because life is cruel. They are suffering because they are holding too tightly. Holding tightly to old identities. Holding tightly to outcomes. Holding tightly to timelines. Holding tightly to fears. Holding tightly to the belief that life must unfold a certain way in order for them to be okay. But clinging is a vibration of scarcity. Clinging tells the universe, I do not trust the path. I do not trust myself. I do not trust the process. And the universe mirrors that fear back. Because fear cannot magnetize. Tension cannot receive. Control cannot create expansion. Life flows where there is space. Life expands where there is openness. Life accelerates where there is surrender. Surrender is not inaction. It is inner alignment. Many misunderstand surrender as doing nothing, as passivity, apathy, or waiting. But surrender is not stepping back. Surrender is stepping into the current instead of fighting against it. Surrender is the moment you stop swimming upstream and allow the river to carry you toward the direction you were always meant to go. It is the moment you release the illusion that you must control every detail for things to work out. And in that release, your vibration rises. Your intuition opens. Your inner space clears. Your energy softens. Your clarity sharpens. Your path becomes visible. Because surrender is not the absence of power, it is the activation of higher power. Why does letting go accelerate manifestation? Because when you cling, your energy contracts. When you release, your energy expands. Contraction blocks possibilities. Expansion invites them. Think of a clenched fist, tight, rigid, unable to receive. Now think of an open palm, soft, receptive, available for blessing. Your energy works the same way. When you cling to timing, you block better timing. When you cling to one path, you block a better path. When you cling to one outcome, you block an outcome that may exceed your imagination. Surrender opens the door to possibilities you cannot see from the limited perspective of control. Because control is small. Control is narrow. Control is fear trying to disguise itself as logic. But surrender connects you to the intelligence of life itself. You cannot manifest from desperation. You manifest from coherence. Desperation weakens your signal. It tells the universe, I need this to feel whole. I need this to feel safe. I need this to feel worthy. But needing is not attracting. Needing is repelling. When you surrender, you shift from needing to allowing. From I must have this to I am already aligned with what is right for me. From why is it not here yet to I trust the unfolding. From I am afraid to I am guided. That shift in vibration is what accelerates everything. Because surrender is magnetic. Control is resistant. Most delays are not caused by life. Most delays are caused by resistance. Your vibration and your desire must match. If your desire is high but your vibration is low, the universe waits for your energy to catch up. This waiting is not punishment. It is alignment. Life will not deliver what you are not vibrationally ready to hold. And nothing slows readiness more than holding on too tightly. Surrender is the dissolving of resistance. And when resistance dissolves, timing accelerates. Surrender strengthens intuition. When the mind is tense, intuition is silent. You cannot hear guidance over the noise of fear. But when you surrender, your mind quiets. Your energy clears. Your heart opens. And suddenly, the next step becomes obvious. A step that was invisible when you were trying too hard. Surrender does not remove action. It refines it. It transforms scattered effort into inspired movement. And inspired movement always leads to acceleration. Surrender shifts you from force to flow. Force is you doing the work alone. Flow is you working with the universe. Force drains you. Flow energizes you. Force is mental. Flow is vibrational. Force says, "Why isn't this happening yet?" Flow says, "It's unfolding exactly as it should." Force pulls you out of alignment. Flow returns you to your center. And everything you want lives in that center. Surrender is not about losing control. It is about choosing trust. Trust in timing. Trust in intuition. Trust in the process. Trust in your own worthiness. Trust that what is meant for you cannot be taken from you. Trust that what is not meant for you cannot stay. When you trust, you stop chasing. You stop worrying. You stop gripping so tightly that you suffocate the very thing you are trying to attract. Trust creates space. Trust creates openness. Trust creates magnetism. Trust allows life to meet you halfway. Your life accelerates the moment you stop insisting it must look the way you imagine. Because the universe often has routes far more elegant than anything the human mind can design. Paths that save you time. Paths that save you pain. Paths that elevate you. Paths that unfold without struggle. But control blinds you to these paths. Surrender reveals them. Life is always trying to deliver what aligns with your highest timeline. But it cannot deliver what you are blocking with fear. When you surrender, you remove the barrier, and life rushes in. This chapter ends with a truth that every awakened soul eventually understands. You do not accelerate your life by pushing harder. You accelerate it by letting go of everything that keeps your vibration from rising. Let go of timelines. Let go of old identities. Let go of fear. Let go of pressure. Let go of control. Surrender not as an act of defeat, but as an act of alignment. Because the moment you surrender, the moment you open your hands and allow life to lead, everything you've been trying to chase begins to move toward you. There comes a moment on every inner journey when you begin to sense something extraordinary. A feeling that the life you want is not as far away as you once believed. A feeling that the gap between where you are and where you desire to be is not measured in distance, not measured in time, not measured in luck, but measured in identity. Life is not waiting for a better version of circumstances. Life is waiting for a better version of you. Not because you are flawed, not because you are unworthy, but because every new reality requires a new self to inhabit it. You cannot step into an elevated life while standing in the vibration of an outdated identity. Your next chapter has a frequency. Your old self does not match it. And here is the profound truth. The universe responds most powerfully not to who you were and not to who you pretend to be, but to who you decide to become. The moment you begin embodying the vibration of your future self, the version of you who is already living the life you desire, life begins rearranging itself around that identity. Opportunities appear, people shift, circumstances reorganize, paths open, momentum forms, not because the world changed first, but because you did. Identity is vibrational. Identity is magnetic. Identity is destiny. Every version of you carries a specific frequency, a unique blend of thoughts, beliefs, expectations, and emotions that signal to the universe, "This is who I am. These are the experiences I expect. This is the reality I am a match to." And life always responds in kind. If your identity is built on struggle, you will find yourself in situations that confirm struggle. If your identity is built on unworthiness, you will attract people and outcomes that reflect unworthiness. If your identity is built on limitation, life will show you the edges of those limits. But if your identity is built on clarity, you begin to see paths where others see walls. If your identity is built on confidence, you begin to take actions that change your trajectory. If your identity is built on abundance, you begin to receive with ease what once required exhausting effort. Everything in your life mirrors the identity you inhabit, which means this: the fastest way to change your life is to upgrade the version of yourself you are choosing to be. Becoming the new self requires one essential shift. Stop living from memory and start living from imagination. Your old identity is built from memory. The experiences you've had, the mistakes you've made, the disappointments you've carried, the patterns you repeated, the conclusions you drew about yourself when you were younger, wounded, or unaware of your potential. Your future identity, however, is built from imagination, from possibility, from vision, from inspiration, from the deeper part of you that senses who you are capable of becoming. Memory limits you to the past. Imagination reveals the future. Most people live from memory, but awakened people, aligned people, begin living from imagination. They ask, how would my future self think? What choices would they make? What boundaries would they hold? What opportunities would they step into? What habits would they embody? What emotions would they return to? What vibration would they carry? And then they begin practicing that vibration now. They begin rehearsing that identity now. They begin embodying that version now. Identity is not built from one big shift. Identity is built from thousands of small, consistent choices that align with who you are becoming. The new self requires new emotional standards. You cannot step into the life you want while tolerating the emotional habits that belonged to the old you. The new self is grounded. The old self is reactive. The new self is intentional. The old self is impulsive. The new self operates from clarity. The old self operates from fear. The new self holds a vibration that says, I trust myself. I trust my path. I trust my timing. This emotional intelligence is not a personality trait. It is a commitment. A commitment to choose your vibration instead of inheriting it. A commitment to stabilize your inner world even when the outer world tests you. A commitment to no longer let the past version of you dictate the future you are stepping into. The new self also requires new beliefs. Your beliefs are the architecture of your identity. They shape your decisions, your possibilities, your limits, your magnetism. To become the new self, you must consciously release beliefs like, I don't deserve more. I'm not ready. I always struggle. Things never work out for me. This is just who I am. I don't have what it takes. I must hold on to control to feel safe. These beliefs may have served you once, but now they are the anchors holding your future hostage. The new self carries new beliefs. I am capable. I am worthy. I am growing. I attract the right things at the right time. I trust my inner guidance. I am becoming who I'm meant to be. I rise. I expand. I evolve. These beliefs are not fantasies. They are frequencies, signals, blueprints of identity. When you believe differently, you vibrate differently. When you vibrate differently, life responds differently. The new self requires courageous action. Identity is not built only in thought, it is built in decisions. Every time you make a choice that aligns with your future self instead of your past self, you strengthen the bridge between who you were and who you are becoming. When you say yes to opportunities, the old you would fear, you step into the new self. When you hold boundaries, the old you would collapse under you, step into the new self. When you invest in yourself, the old you would doubt, you step into the new self. When you trust timing, the old you would panic about, you step into the new self. Courage is not the absence of fear. Courage is the decision that your future matters more than your comfort. And each courageous action shifts your vibrational identity. Your new self already exists within you, not as a fantasy, not as a dream, as a frequency. You are not becoming someone new, you are allowing a higher version of yourself to emerge. A version that was always waiting, always calling, always whispering. There is more for you. There is more within you. There is more you are meant to experience. And the moment you step into this identity, not perfectly, not instantly, but consistently, life responds. Because life is always responding to the version of you you choose to be today, not someday. Not when conditions improve, not when fear disappears. Today. The chapter ends with this truth: your new reality cannot arrive until the version of you who can live it steps forward. When you become the person your future requires, even slightly, even imperfectly, you activate a timeline where everything begins shifting in your favor. Your embodiment is the invitation your destiny has been waiting for. There is a force within you, quiet, subtle, often unnoticed, yet it has shaped more of your life than effort ever has. That force is expectation. Not the expectations you speak out loud, not the goals you write on paper, not the desires you daydream about, but the quiet expectations you carry beneath your awareness, the ones coded into your vibration, the ones your subconscious broadcasts every moment of your life. Expectation is the emotional assumption of what you believe is likely to happen. And life, in its mysterious but unwavering intelligence, meets you at that level. You do not attract what you want. You attract what you expect. Because expectation is belief in motion. Expectation is emotion in vibration. Expectation is identity expressing itself. Expectation is the silent agreement between your inner world and the universe. And here is the extraordinary truth. Your life rises or falls to the level of your deepest expectations. Expectation is the energy that organizes your reality. Most people think they are responding to life when in truth, life is responding to them. The energy you carry into every moment acts like a blueprint. If you expect things to be difficult, you unconsciously seek difficulty. You interpret events through a lens of struggle. You subconsciously sabotage opportunities that do not match your story. If you expect disappointment, your mind scans for it. You notice what confirms your fear and ignore what contradicts it. If you expect rejection, you carry a vibration that makes connection harder. But if you expect support, life begins, revealing pathways you overlooked before. If you expect growth, doors open in places you never imagined. If you expect timing to work in your favor, you stop rushing and opportunities appear effortlessly. Expectation is not hope. Hope is fragile. Hope wavers. Expectation is grounded, anchored, felt in the body. It is a knowing not from logic, but from alignment. Expectation shapes your perception. Two people can experience the same event and walk away with opposite interpretations. One sees setback. One sees redirection. One sees rejection. One sees protection. One sees an ending. One sees an opening. The difference is not the event. The difference is expectation. Expectation creates filters. Filters create meaning. Meaning creates emotion. Emotion shapes vibration. Vibration attracts reality. Expectation is the first domino in the chain reaction that becomes your life. Expectation influences your behavior subtly but powerfully. If you expect failure, you hesitate. You dim your efforts. You avoid risk. You choose safety over alignment. Your actions shrink to match your fears. If you expect success, you show up differently. You speak differently. You move differently. You think differently. You persist differently. Your actions expand to match your vision. This is why expectation is destiny. You cannot outperform your subconscious beliefs about what is possible for you. You will always behave in ways that confirm your expectations, unless you consciously choose to upgrade those expectations. Expectation is vibrational instruction. Your vibration tells the universe what you are ready to receive. A high expectation signals, I believe I am worthy. I believe things work out for me. I believe life supports me. A low expectation signals I am prepared for disappointment. I expect things to fall apart. I expect struggle. And the universe. Neutral. Responsive. Mirroring your inner world. Meets you where you are. You cannot expect scarcity and attract abundance. You cannot expect abandonment and attract deep love. You cannot expect failure and attract momentum. The world mirrors your expectation not as punishment, but as reflection. Where do expectations come from? Expectations are inherited from childhood experiences, from repeated disappointments, from collective fear, from old versions of yourself who no longer represent who you are becoming. You did not choose most of your expectations. They were absorbed, adopted, learned, which means you can unlearn them. Expectation is not fixed. Expectation is programmable. It is the byproduct of what you believe long enough, feel deeply enough, rehearse repeatedly enough. Your expectation is simply the vibration you spend the most time living in. To change your expectation, you must change your emotional baseline. Expectation is born from emotion, not from logic. You cannot shift expectation by repeating empty statements, but you can shift expectation by shifting your emotional home. When you begin living in a vibration of trust instead of fear, your expectation rises. When you begin living in a vibration of worthiness instead of doubt, your expectation rises. When you begin living in a vibration of clarity instead of confusion, your expectation rises. When your emotional baseline changes, your expectations change naturally because they now reflect the frequency of your new identity. Expectation follows identity the way a shadow follows light. Raising your expectations does not mean becoming unrealistic. It means becoming aligned. Aligned expectations come from inner clarity, emotional regulation, a sense of personal worthiness, trust in timing, trust in your inner guidance, trust that life is a mirror, not a judge. When your vibration rises, high expectations are not fantasy. They are logical. Because aligned people do not hope for things to work out. They expect them to, not from entitlement, but from resonance. Life meets them where they vibrate. Expectation accelerates manifestation. When you expect something, you begin preparing for it, making space for it, aligning with it. You recognize opportunities faster. You act with more confidence. You make decisions from a higher timeline. You stop doubting. Stop hesitating. Stop seeking reassurance. Expectation organizes your mind, your habits, your intuition, your energy. It brings your entire being into coherence. And coherence is magnetic. Expectation is the frequency of inevitability. The moment you expect something with emotional certainty, without desperation, without forcing, your vibration becomes a match to it, and life begins moving to meet you there. This chapter ends with a truth impossible to unsee. You do not receive what you want. You receive what you believe. You receive what you assume. You receive what you expect. If you want to change your life, change your expectation. Raise it. Stabilize it. Live in it. Because life always rises to meet you at the level you have decided to vibrate. Not someday. Not eventually. But the moment your expectation becomes your truth. There comes a point on your journey, a point you may not even realize you've reached, where something inside you shifts. Not loudly. Not dramatically. Not like a cinematic breakthrough. But subtly, quietly, undeniably. It is the moment you begin to understand that the true source of your power was never found in controlling circumstances, but in becoming the kind of person who is unaffected by them, untouchable, not emotionally numb, not disconnected, not indifferent, but steady, grounded, aligned, unshakable, a person who does not collapse when life becomes unpredictable, a person who does not crumble when fear tries to visit, a person who does not shrink when doubt whispers in the dark. Because once you understand the mechanics of your inner world, once you understand vibration, identity, expectation, alignment, and surrender, you begin to see that the outer world has no true authority over you. It never did. Circumstances only had power because your old identity reacted to them. Fear only had authority because you believed its voice. Doubt only had weight because you accepted its story. When you stop feeding the old identity, you stop energizing everything that ever controlled it. This is what it means to become untouchable. Untouchable does not mean nothing happens to you. It means nothing can remove you from alignment. Fear may still arise, but it does not define your decisions. Doubt may whisper, but it does not dictate your direction. Chaos may appear, but it does not destabilize your inner world. You become a mountain weathered by storms, untouched at your core, an ocean surface shifting, depth unmoved, a flame dancing with the wind, never extinguished. Untouchable does not mean superficial strength. It means inner authority, a deep abiding power that cannot be taken from you. Becoming untouchable begins with emotional mastery, not the suppression of emotion, but the sovereignty of emotion. You stop reacting out of survival patterns. You stop letting your nervous system repeat the past. You stop letting fear drive the car. Instead, you develop a new emotional baseline, one rooted in calm, trust, clarity, and self-worth. You become the observer of your inner world, not the prisoner of it. You notice fear, but you no longer obey it. You notice doubt, but you no longer internalize it. You notice discomfort, but you no longer identify with it. This emotional awareness is the foundation of untouchability. The untouchable version of you responds, not reacts. The old self reacted instantly, impulsively, emotionally, from conditioning, from fear. The untouchable self pauses, breathes, observes, chooses. Choice is what separates the awakened from the unconscious. When you choose from alignment instead of fear, you begin living from your higher timeline, not your old programming. You begin making decisions your future self would be proud of. And those decisions change everything. The untouchable version of you is defined by identity, not circumstance. Circumstances fluctuate. Identity endures. If your sense of self is tied to what happens outside of you, your job, your money, your relationships, your validation, your wins, your losses, you will always be unstable. But when your identity becomes internal, rooted in your worth, rooted in your vibration, rooted in your alignment, nothing external has the power to shake who you are. Abundance is no longer about money. Love is no longer about approval. Confidence is no longer about success. Peace is no longer about perfection. Your state is yours. Your power is yours. Your reality emerges from within you. This is untouchability. The untouchable version of you trusts timing. Fear rushes. Alignment flows. Fear panics. Alignment understands. Fear demands certainty. Alignment knows that certainty comes from vibration, not external control. When you trust timing, you stop forcing. You stop micromanaging life. You stop questioning your path every time something unfolds differently than you expected. You know delays are alignment. You know detours are protection. You know redirections are upgrades. You trust that your higher self and the intelligence of life are collaborating on your behalf. This trust is what makes you untouchable. The untouchable version of you is guided, not driven by anxiety. Your intuition becomes louder. Your insight becomes sharper. Your instincts become more accurate. You begin feeling the difference between a fearful impulse and a guided nudge. Fear says hurry. You're running out of time. Something bad is coming. Guidance says, move now. Move. This is aligned. Step forward. Fear says, don't try. You will fail. Guidance says, this is your path. Expand. Fear pulls you inward into contraction. Guidance lifts you outward into expansion. When you can tell the difference, your entire life accelerates. The untouchable version of you vibrates at a level where fear cannot enter, not because you avoid fear, but because you outgrow it. Your vibration rises to a frequency where the old patterns simply cannot survive. The same circumstances that once overwhelmed you now feel insignificant. The same triggers that once unsettled you now feel irrelevant. The same doubts that once controlled you now feel untrue. This is the transformation you have been moving toward through every chapter of this audiobook. Untouchable does not mean invincible. It means energetically sovereign, rooted in a frequency that cannot be shaken. The chapter ends with a truth that marks the beginning of a new reality. You do not become untouchable by making life easier. You become untouchable by making yourself unshakable, by mastering your vibration, by rewriting your identity, by elevating your baseline, by trusting your path, by surrendering control, by embodying your future self before the world reflects it. Circumstances may shift, people may come and go, timelines may change, but you, the real you, the aligned, awakened, expanded you becomes the constant, the mountain, the ocean, the flame, untouchable. As we reach the end of this journey together, I want you to pause for a moment and notice something subtle, something quiet, yet undeniable that has been forming inside you. A shift, a rising, a returning. Because after everything you've heard, everything you've realized, everything you've awakened to, you are no longer the same person who pressed play on this audiobook. Something in you has expanded. Something in you has strengthened. Something in you has remembered. You have seen what your mind is capable of. You have felt the quiet authority that lives beneath your fear. You have touched the part of you that was never broken, never unworthy, never powerless. And now you know not as theory, not as hope, but as truth that your life is not a series of coincidences. It is not a random collection of events. It is not something happening to you. It is something happening through you. Your mind is the starting point. Your vibration is the blueprint. Your belief is the architect. Your will is the engine. Your alignment is the magnet. And now, you have every tool you need to create a life that matches the person you are becoming. So hear me clearly, your past does not have the authority to predict your future. Your fears no longer deserve a seat at the table. Your doubts no longer hold the power to stop you. You are stepping into a new identity, one built from clarity, from alignment, from power, from consciousness. An identity that does not chase, but attracts. That does not react, but chooses. That does not shrink, but expands. That does not fear, but creates. You came into this audiobook as a seeker. You leave it as a creator. And the world you are about to step into, the world that is forming at the edge of your vibration, is going to reflect that shift in extraordinary ways. Opportunities will begin to align with you. People will begin to respond to you differently. Ideas will flow more effortlessly. Synchronicities will increase. And you will feel, maybe for the first time in years, that life is no longer something you are competing with. It is something you are collaborating with. Because now you understand the laws. You understand your power. You understand your mind. And once understanding turns into embodiment, everything changes. Everything. So, as we close this chapter, I want you to take one final breath slow. deep, intentional, and declare inwardly. With quiet certainty, my life now responds to me, because it will. And when it does, remember this moment. The moment everything began. If this audiobook has awakened something in you, a new clarity, a new confidence, a new level of self-understanding, then I invite you to stay connected. This channel, Sleep Success Audiobook, is more than a place to listen. It is a place to transform. Here, we build the mindset, the identity, the emotional power, and the inner alignment that create wealth, clarity, peace, and a life you're proud to wake up to. So if you felt resonance today, subscribe, turn on notifications, listen while you sleep, continue rewiring your mind every night, because transformation is not a single moment. It is the accumulation of aligned choices. It is the repetition of powerful ideas. It is the daily reinforcement of who you want to become. And you are becoming extraordinary. Thank you for listening. Thank you for rising. And thank you for stepping into the highest version of yourself. Your new life begins now.